Hello, it's Marie again. Today, sharing some prenatal yoga wisdom, some women's wisdom, some labor wisdom, and I'm not going to share everything about labor, but just a little bit, since we started this conversation in my prenatal yoga class that has since been rescheduled. So, a few weeks ago, I was sharing about why a woman might squat. And I asked my class if they have ever seen any ancient birth art or any historic images of birth. The answer was no. This is common. I encourage you to Google, well, hopefully it comes up, a historic birth art. Typically, what's depicted is a woman squatting with other women around her. Squatting, being held by other women, squatting, hanging from a rope, squatting, hanging from a tree branch. Because yes, we can birth outside, we can birth at home. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here if birth couldn't happen naturally without a medicalized environment. Yes, birth can happen in a hospital as well. I had 2 unmedicated vaginal deliveries at a hospital, and that's something I'm very proud of. But there is not one way to birth, and I really think that's important for women to remember. And also, birth doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen in our heads. It happens in our bodies. We cannot think our way through labor. We must feel our way through labor. And what happens so often is, as women in the world today, we are disconnected from our bodies from early on, even from the time we have our period. I don't know about you, but I never really celebrated my body until I got pregnant 10 years ago the first time. And that's the first time that I really began to pay attention to myself, to take deep care of myself, to nourish myself, to learn how, because I'm still learning. But it's Devin Bodie, that many of you have seen in videos with me, who taught me how to begin loving myself more deeply. And it was because I knew that it wasn't just me that I was feeding and taking care of and paying attention to, but this unborn child that I was responsible for. And that really woke up in me, the remembrance of the strength that is in here. And then going through labor and going through breastfeeding and going through another pregnancy and another labor and more breastfeeding and mothering, that I have gained much of my experience. And then I have supported numerous women through their pregnancies, through being a prenatal yoga teacher. So I'm not going to talk about everything, but just some key things that I feel are helpful. After I shared about the birth art and birth images, one woman asked, well, if squatting is the position that is optimum for birth, and that's something that I shared as well, when we put our bodies into the squat position, it creates what is referred to as the greatest pelvic outlet. So when your body is in the squat position, your pelvis opens to the greatest space, the greatest circumference for the baby to exit your body. She said, well, how come everything I see of birth, women are laying down flat? Very good question. The reason why, as far as I understand, that doctors have women lay flat on their backs and scoot down the table is because it's convenient for the doctor. And most OBGYNs in the last 100 years, when birth went from being at home to in a hospital, men were the doctors, and it was more convenient for them. And now, as we are regenerating the feminine in our world, it's just happening all on its own. Feminine energy, females rising, women taking their power back. Things are shifting very slowly. So it's important that we know and we are educated so that when we go into our birth experience, that we can ask for what we want. But our baby also has the way that they want to enter the world. So part of it is up to us to educate ourselves, to know what we want, to be able to ask for if we're in the hospital, birth center, or having a home birth. Yeah. Number one. Number two, birthing in a hospital isn't bad. It's not a bad thing. Like I said, baby has their way of how they would like to enter the world as well. So you can plan and take all the classes and read all the books, and then your baby has their own idea of how they want to enter the world. So just being open to however they decide to make their presence known in this lifetime. Breath is extremely important because something that often happens when you're being monitored during labor is, the baby's oxygen can drop. Well, how is the baby getting oxygen? Through the mother's breathing. And so many of us we don't know how to breathe. Again, we're living from the neck up, so we're not in our body. We're not used to taking deep body breaths. And a cue that my students have ingrained within them, and the number one thing that I've heard from women after taking prenatal yoga and going through labor is that they remember my voice, and the breathing is one thing that really helped them. So we do different breath styles in prenatal yoga, but one main thing is to breathe in through your nose and down to your baby. So taking a deep breath in and guiding it down to your baby. And that's the way that mom can keep her oxygen levels up to help keep baby's oxygen levels up. And yes, it depends. There could be other complications underlying why baby's oxygen is dropping, but just something to keep in mind. The more that you can stay oxygenated in your body, usually the more oxygenated your womb space is. So breath is super important. Another thing to know about going into a hospital for birth is that any unnecessary intervention that occurs in the hospital decreases your likelihood of having a vaginal delivery. So anything that is not natural, so any introduction of any type of medication, drug, is an intervention. So don't be surprised if you go in and get the epidural and things slow down. And that is an interruption to the natural flow of energy and of labor. It's an interruption. Just like induction is an interruption unless it's medically necessary. Just like breaking the water is an interruption. So these are not bad things. For some women, they're supportive, but for other women, if you don't know, every unnecessary intervention decreases the likelihood that you will have a vaginal delivery. What does that mean? That means it increases the likelihood that you will have a cesarean birth. Is this a bad thing? No. You just need to know this so that it's not a surprise for you if that happens. Cesarean birth is another way of birth. Thank goodness for cesarean birth because it has saved many women and many babies, but is not always medically necessary. The rate of C-sections, births in the world has been rising, and it is an operation. Sometimes it's medically necessary, but a lot of the time, it is not. So we talked about breath, we talked about squatting. pain. Pain in labor has a purpose. It gets you to stop what you're doing and pay attention to your body if you are not already. Out in nature, if an animal is in labor and there is a threat, for example, a giraffe is in labor and they hear a lion, the cervix of the giraffe will close, labor will stop to protect the unborn giraffe. We are mammals. When we are in a situation where we do not feel safe, when a woman does not feel safe, her body has the same reaction. It will close. This is how nature works. So if we can be present with the sensations that come with labor, use the tools that we have, our breath. Hopefully we have someone there to support us, a partner, a doula, a midwife, friends, someone that we feel safe with, that's supportive for us. Then we feel supported and safe and can allow our body to open. So pain is there for a purpose. It means that you're getting that much closer to meeting your baby. But what ends up happening is our mind, because we're not trained so much to, we think that we are the pain. No, we are this divine being. Pain is a sensation. So if we can allow ourselves to be present with the sensation, knowing that it's temporary, and allow it to move through us versus resist it, then not that it's going to be, it makes it a little bit more grace and ease to meet the contractions that will come. So I just wanted to show quickly something that you can do at home, the squat. And squatting is not for everybody either. That's the thing with yoga in general. It depends. It depends on your body, your baby, how you are feeling today, how you are feeling each moment. So, like I said, I'm not sharing everything about labor, but just a few little tidbits that hopefully can be helpful. So in the yoga studio, we have all these awesome, really cool blankets, but odds are you're at home, and I hope you have a towel. Most people do. So you want to kind of get it so that you can roll it, and that roll you're going to stand on so that your heels are supported. Yeah. So option 1 is the no squat. You'll breathe in, reach up, and breathe out. Join your hands and relax them back to your heart. So that's if squatting is super uncomfortable, you have shearing pain or pubic symphysis, you know who you are. Option 2 is to breathe in and breathe out into a half squat. So just coming halfway down. Still taking the thighs back and apart is grounding for the body, helps to strengthen the legs. So we exhale down and then we inhale coming up. In the full squat, you inhale up and exhale all the way. So usually the heels lift a little bit, and that's totally fine and awesome. It's supported by the roll. And this is the shape, the squat position, where the thighs, the hip bone, the femur, the head of the femur is grounded into its socket. So what does that mean? When we're grounded, what is ground? Ground is earth. It is steady. It is stable. The body feels safe. This is also a wonderful position for elimination. When we're uplifted, traveling, going, doing, a lot of times our digestive system slows down. So getting into the squat position helps to allow our bodies to feel safe, allows intestines to relax and soften, allows for our bowel to release from our body, very similar to allowing baby to exit the body. So you can hang out in the squat position, be watery, do kind of what I'm doing, a little moving side to side, twisting. Let me rotate a little. Or you can do moving squats. So we exhale to come down. To come up, we're going to use our legs. So your hands root down, lift your hips up, use your legs to come all the way up. So breathing in, reaching up, breathing out, sinking all the way into the squat. And again, you'll tilt forward, use arms, lifting up and inhaling. So you can do like as many of these as feels comfortable to build lower body strength. Also, as mothers, we carry a lot of stuff. So if you can learn to use your legs to lift and not your upper body and arms, legs and core, you can help to protect your back. I don't want to go on and on, but I'll probably have another one of these. Thank you.